Well, for years, conservatives have been complaining about taxpayer funds going to the left-leaning news operations of public radio and public TV. But their hooks are in the Beltway establishment so deep that they've proved almost impossible to dislodge. Now, Republican lawmakers have a new plan to cut the cord from federal tax dollars. Here to tell us about her new bill is New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. So explain how your new bill would work.
Well, first of all, as a former newspaper owner and publisher, I very much understand how important it is to get the news and get the facts. But these organizations have become purveyors of advocacy and not accuracy, and they're not giving us facts. They're giving us a lot of propaganda, and that's why I put in a bill, co-sponsored along with Senator Mike Lee in the Senate, to defund the propaganda machines that have become NPR and the PBS. And we've got to do that because all this money is going in to actually promote a liberal agenda, and that is not fair to the American public. We're doing exactly what DOJ wants us to do. We're finding the fraud, abuse, and waste in these organizations. And David, I'll just give you an example. The DEI director at the PBS stations makes over $400,000 a year in a government job. All right, we don't need a DEI director, nor do we need to have our government money go to pay for what has now become propaganda for the left. And that's what these stations, unfortunately, have become, instead of purveyors of facts and news.
By the way, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that that's more than what cabinet secretaries make. I believe that's true. I may be wrong in that. But, you know, they always push back and say, look, we get less than 1% of our funding from the federal government. We could survive without it. But what they don't tell you is that 31% of NPR's revenue comes from programming fees that are paid by member stations, and those stations get about 10% of their money from the federal government. So it's all intertwined. It starts with money coming from the federal government and weeds its way down into NPR.
Well, right, and also it's closer to 15 or 20%, not 1%. But the other thing that they also do is, you know, organizations like George Soros's foundations are funding groups to actually put out propaganda to take an advocacy position, and they're not disclosing that. So if you want to turn on, a CNN, a Fox News, or whatever, you know what you're getting. I mean, you know that you want to see what their viewpoint is, and in many cases, you're going to get very much a level playing field. With this is our money. That's a different thing. When you're using our taxpayer dollars to promote a liberal agenda, where 67 or 70% of their audience now are people that describe themselves as liberal or very liberal. Contrast that to about 20 or 30 years ago, where only about 20% did. So that, you know, all this government money has moved them far to the left. So we're not getting an unvarnished opinion. We're not getting a balanced news. We're not getting facts. We're getting propaganda from the left, and that's why we need to doge this.
Yeah, Congressman, I want to switch gears to what's going to be happening in a couple of hours or even less. This vote on whether or not Donald Trump gets his one beautiful bill in the House. Blue state Republicans, they want a higher SALT deduction, which is essentially payback from the feds for all the money that they're spending on state and local taxes. Now, you're a blue state Republican. How high do the blue state Republicans want to get from the deduction that they're now getting of about $10,000?
Well, let me talk to you about what President Trump stands for, and that's common sense. And he's looking for common sense. He wants to give us some relief on SALT, and he appreciates that. We had a special meeting with President Trump, all the blue state Republicans, on where the sweet spot should be. And he said, I want to give you something. It's not going to be unlimited, but we need something because we do have a lot of high earners that are suffering under the high taxes in New York. Now, contrast that with my district. Very few of the people in my district actually itemize, which would be those people that would benefit the least from SALT. But we also doubled the standard deduction. And what we're looking at right now, which is what's really important for people to understand, is if we allow these tax cuts to expire, you're seeing a $4.5 trillion tax cut, and mostly to the lower and middle income taxpayers, not to the very wealthy. And there's a great chart that's going out, we'll be putting on our social media, that just shows you how much of a tax break the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act are for small businesses, middle and lower income taxpayers, our farmers, everyone that is operating throughout my district in upstate New York. Most 95% got a tax cut. If that goes away, you're going to see 95% get a tax increase.
Absolutely.
Not good.
We got 5 seconds. Is the president, who's now dealing directly with these Republicans, is he going to get a deal by the end of the day? Quickly.
I hope so. We have got to start this. This is what we need in order to start the whole process of getting what we need.
Claudia Tenney, great to
yes?
see you. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.